I was still in high school when September 11th happened, but within a year I was in basic training. It was a very big reason why I joined up. I was a crew chief, and I joined the Air Force as well to see the world. So there was a lot for me to do. So I was magically whisked away to my first deployment station to Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska. Sometimes these things happen. And so while I was there, I was a crew chief. I worked on planes. I was a RC-135 mechanic. So RC-135s is a reconnaissance jet. It was a Boeing 707 airframe that's modified for war. And so we did everything like changing tires on it and brakes, washing the windows. Whenever the jet has to have a lot of big repairs or through any scheduled maintenance, we take the jet into the hangar for 30 days or more, and we take a part of it apart. We look at it, make sure it's okay, and then we put it back together so it's still safe to fly. We do all the inspections to make sure that the pilots can perform their missions. My first tail number was 624129, which I'm very proud of. It's something I still remember. 62 is the year that the aircraft was made, 1962. So, and they are still flying those jets today, which is a testament to the maintainers that have kept this fleet going for too many decades to count. We don't even have the math. So while stationed in Nebraska, I did a lot of TDYs, which are temporary duty assignments, where you just spend a few days like going somewhere and coming back to accomplish small missions and stuff like that, versus deployments, which are usually longer. I was deployed to Qatar in Operation OIF-OEF, where we flew reconnaissance missions over Iraq and Afghanistan, providing intelligence for any units that are on the ground or in the air. Oftentimes, in Qatar, that was kind of the rest base for anybody that was coming back from the front lines. And so once or twice you might hear someone that knew say, hey, thanks guys for doing what you do, because not a lot of people know. So after I got that awesome assignment of being in Nebraska, I then got stationed in England, which really made up for that first assignment. I was really happy about that. And when I was there, I was working on KC-135s. KC-135s are air refuelers. And so that's where you have two giant pieces of metal flying next to each other very quickly. And it's kind of scary the first time that it happens. But it's done every day and successfully. It's a pretty amazing thing. While I was in England, we did a lot of really special missions. We supported a lot of NATO summits. So anytime there's a NATO summit, we're maintaining 24-hour air cover over that entire place. So we were in Budapest for 2 weeks. We worked in Norway for 2 weeks. We refueled a lot of foreign aircraft. So we were refueling Italians. The Greeks were the worst, though. They were just like, they didn't have enough stick time. They were just like part-time pilots. I don't know what they did the rest of the time, but I wasn't the pilot. I would always just be chilling in the back, and all of a sudden the aircraft would do something like this, and you're just like, damn pilots, or whatever. And then you get on the ground, or you go up and you see what's up, and they're cursing these like Greek pilots that aren't paying attention, or come up on the aircraft too fast, or aren't doing maneuvers properly. Ignorance is bliss, I tell you what though, like I didn't know these things, everything was fine. And flying on the jets was a lot of fun because I've had a very fortuitous career compared to, I think, a lot of people that give these talks. I do want to say that, hats off to them. So when I'm flying, in the military, I've got my own bunk in the back. I worked on the aircraft, I know who's flying it, and I bring my own food. No airline food for me. I can bring my own terrible food and eat it. And then I can also like hang out with the crew and stuff like that up in the cockpit. So during that time, I was very fortunate as well for visiting over 24 countries, some of them numerous times, whether TDY or whenever I had any leave or a 3-day weekend, I would take off and go. And I just want to harp on a lot of what's been said earlier about the TVCA, so when I was getting out of the military, I didn't know what I was doing next. You go through something called the Transition Assistance Program, and for me it was a 2-week course, and when I was 24 years old, I thought it was the dumbest thing in the world. I mean, I was just like, you know what, like I have my own jet, so at the time, they still do this, they put the mechanics' names on the planes. So when the aircrew comes out, they say, is my jet ready? And I say, excuse me? I was like, whose name is on that? I was like, that's my name. You're borrowing that from me. So here I am, I'm 24, I'm pretty cocky, I'm responsible for maintaining aircraft around the world in foreign countries. And they're putting me through this program, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. But my plan, they're telling you to get a job and everything after this. I wanted to ride my motorcycle around America for a year. So I got out, and I you're told about the difficulties of transitioning, but I don't think that I was aware of it at all. I mean, I didn't think it was a thing. You don't know it's a thing. The military coddles you in some ways, you have your medical care taken care of. You are a part of a group of people. Your friends really become your family. You have access to a lot of things on base that you just don't have any longer, and you don't realize that. So when you get out, you no longer have those things, and I was very fortunate. I had a family that loves and cares for me. Hey, Dad, I see you back there. They were able to have the patience for me. My grandparents' Depression-era mentality of saving every penny you can was instilled in me from a very young age, so I had some money set aside, and then I was able to do, the military provided me with the ability to go on this year-long motorcycle trip. So this transition was kind of delayed, and I met a lot of veterans on this trip. Down in Key West, I met a gentleman by the name of Edward, who said he was a master sergeant in the Air Force until he became homeless. But he would say he was home free, because Key West is nice. You don't need a house in Key West. All you need are cardboard boxes, all right? Very wonderful people. In Arizona, I was at Canyon de Chelly, one of our beautiful national parks. And another motorcycle pulled into this empty campground. Nobody else is there. And he pulls into my spot next to my motorcycle and just says, "Hey man, room for one more?" And I'm like, look around, I'm like, sure, why not? So he asked me, "How long you been on the road?" I was like, 8 months. I was like, "Why? How long you been on the road?" He's like, 16 years. So here I had just happened in the middle of the desert to run into a man named Billy Burrows, who's also a veteran from the Army, Vietnam veteran. And he started saying things to me like, "Hey man, people like me and you," or "Hey, people like us." And so we chatted all that night, eating our cold can of beans that we had strapped to our motorcycles. And I didn't realize that at the time, but how important finding someone else was. I didn't realize I was still searching for that because I didn't even realize it was lost yet. So I found a sense of identity because, when you're growing up, your parents tell you who you're going to be. And then I went to Catholic grade school and high school, all boys Catholic high school, they're telling you who you're going to be. You're in the Air Force, they're telling you who you are now. And then when you get out, I realized I didn't know who the hell I was. And so here I am now searching for another identity, another group, another people to belong to. And those words didn't really start resonating with me until these past few years when I started going back to school. So after that trip, I returned to Cincinnati, did a couple other trips to Asia and Australia. Still kind of searching for what, I don't know. And then when I came back and I started going to school at UC, that's when I started realizing that the field of anthropology, which is a study of people through time, any time, including now, can be very applicable to studying veterans' culture. And so my research has really been focused on veterans and how, as a culture, it's very important. As a subculture, it's very important. How we suffer disproportionately to mental health issues, TBIs, all these things, and how important it is for us to support each other. And it's these things like the TVCA puts on that are the most important things. Just being here right now is just extremely important. And I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you all for doing this, and thank you to the TVCA.